I really have neglected the Sega Saturn, and for so many years as well. I've owned one for the best part of a decade and a half and I just don't play it enough. However, that is something I'm trying to rectify, so recently I sold my old power model and upgraded to a lovely Japanese unit. However, I decided to sell my existing controllers with the old console, and my newly purchased system didn't have any pads with it, which gave me the conundrum of what pad to purchase. I could have gone for the original chunky Western pads, bought another of the redesigned smaller Western pads, or even gone for one of the many different coloured varieties of Japanese controllers just to keep things a little bit more authentic. But this being 2020, I've been trying to go through the wireless route for all of my consoles. Luckily, Retrobit had just the thing I needed, a wireless Saturn controller that works with the original system. Even better, it's officially licensed and designed to mimic the original controller, so I purchased one from Amazon and now it's arrived, so let's see how this modern take on a retro controller fares. First things first, the whole thing is presented rather well in this packaging. It's wonderfully authentic, invoking the design of the original European Saturn packaging, even down to that oh so 1990s Sega Saturn logo. Yep, this is an official looking box, but let's carefully crack it open and see what's inside. And oh my, what is this shiny plastic impressiveness all about? You usually expect polystyrene, cardboard or soft plastic packaging inside things like this, but Retrobit went the extra mile here and have supplied this snazzy storage box. Nice work there, especially if you are the type that likes to display things. Carefully taking the cellophane off and opening the lid, there is a nice flocked velvet texture that screams, we care about the details. There's the controller itself, but not one, but two different receivers. A 2.4GHz receiver to be used with the original Saturn, and a USB one that can be used with your PC, Mac, PlayStation 3, Sega Mega Drive Mini system, or even your Nintendo Switch. Adding two different receivers is a really nice touch. There are plenty of other third-party wireless pads that make you buy the receivers separately, but to have more than one straight out the box is incredibly considerate. There are many that believe that Sega Saturn's 6-button pad is the pinnacle of controller evolution, and I must admit I'm inclined to believe the hype. The disc-based D-pad and 6 face buttons were absolutely made for the mountains of brilliant 2D games that the system was so good for. It's a controller that just melts into your hand quite nicely, and might just have the most comfortable shoulder buttons around. Retrobit's version is just as comfortable and light too. Retrobit has multiple coloured versions of this pad and is continuing to release new colours as well, but I went for slate grey. The rear of the pad has a partially textured transparent casing that wraps around the face of the pad, while the main area of the controller is a gorgeous transparent grey colour. Combined with the colourful Japanese style buttons, it's an absolute joy to look at. The two included receivers are easy to use. They have a button on them to sync up controllers and a micro USB port to connect them to a PC for firmware updates. Once you plug them into your chosen device and power that device on, a red LED will slowly blink as it looks for a synced controller. To sync a new pad, turn the controller on by pressing the start button and just hold the sync button to make the LED flash red to put it in sync mode. The process takes just a couple of seconds with the Saturn receiver and only a tiny bit longer using the USB receiver on a Windows device, as it has to install the drivers first. With the hard bit done, it's time to play some games, finally. Personally, the ultimate test for any controller is a Capcom fighter, and my cup truly doth run over here. I'm no fighting game connoisseur, but for me a few rounds throwing Hadokens and Shoryukens are a perfect way to see if a D-pad is up to par. You'll be pleased to know that the Retrobit pad passed the test with flying colours. I didn't find it any different to the stock Saturn pad. But this pad isn't just for Street Fighter though. This style of pad is good for pretty much anything you can throw at it. I had a lot of fun blasting through some of the best games the Saturn has to offer. As original equipment ages, as did my old Saturn pads, time makes those old buttons stick and unreliable, so to have a new pad that's fully working is a godsend. I did experience an instance of the C button sticking on the Retrobit pad, and from a quick Google search this does seem to be a regular issue that I can now repeat by pressing the C button upward at around the 10 o'clock position. It's something that can be fixed by the user, but really we shouldn't have to, and it's weird that it's still occurring months after the initial release. While producing this video, I contacted the Retrobit support team about this issue, and they were very helpful and actually sent me a replacement pad from the US in a matter of weeks. I'm pleased to say that the replacement pad works perfectly, so kudos to Retrobit for providing an excellent support service, even in the midst of a global pandemic. So I bought this pad for my Saturn, but as it works with other devices, let's see how it works with the Nintendo Switch. Well, quite well in fact. Being that this is a D-pad based controller, it's obviously not the optimal pad for playing the majority of 3D games, but if you're looking to play many of the retro remakes, re-releases and pastiches on the system, you really could do a lot worse. Initially, the pad does default to a rather unusual mapping where the A, B, X and Y buttons map directly to their counterparts on the Switch pad, which is the wrong orientation. However, this is easily rectified by holding down and start for 3 seconds, which flips the X and Y and A and B buttons to something that resembles the Switch button layout. If required, you can also change the D-pad to be used in place of the left analog stick by holding left and start for 3 seconds, or in place of the right analog stick by holding right and start for 3 seconds, or back to normal by holding up and start for 3 seconds. I'm honestly amazed at how versatile a controller this is and how well it works. Other than that sticky C button, I've been nothing but impressed with Retrobit's attention to detail and the quality of the pad they've released. I've been solidly playing with it over the last week, and it's a wonderful wireless pad with no noticeable lag, especially when playing on a CRT. Retrobit has certainly raised the bar in terms of retro console accessories, and with so many other retro systems not having decent wireless pads, he's hoping the likes of Dreamcast, PlayStation and more get controllers that are this well designed. This pad definitely gets the thumbs up from me.